Here goes.
We're going to discuss a film for assignment 4.2. The film was Dunkirk. I finished watching it about an hour ago. In the film, I didn't think there were any central characters at all. It bounced around quite a bit. To me, the film didn't make a ton of sense.
Nick, do you want to talk about the three storylines?
That part I didn't catch. I don't know if I didn't watch it close enough or what, but it just seemed like they kept bouncing around in the same day. Almost.
Okay, now there was a soldier trying to get off the beach.
Yeah.
He was trying to get onto a ship.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so confused.
Okay, I think that storyline took place over a week.
Did it?
Yeah. And so do you want to talk a little bit about the guy who, the kind of middle-aged man with his son, who was, and they took their private boat over to Dunkirk?
Yeah. So they wanted to go help at the war, and I suppose there was a call out to people with smaller ships to come and support. And then a friend jumped on board, a friend of the son jumped on board with them. And on their way to Dunkirk, they come across a sunken ship and pick up this man who was clearly in distress. He was the only one that they saw and I guess survived. And he had a bit of an outlash and told the guy to turn around, but the older man, the captain of this small vessel, wanted to continue to Dunkirk, and along the way, another ship gets attacked, and they bring on lots of people from this warship that was sinking, and eventually make it in with big congratulatory from all the people on shore and everything. Yeah.
And then there was the storyline of the pilots.
Yeah, that's where I started getting confused, because I don't know, movies that jump around like that really do confuse me quite a bit, because it seemed to be jumping from night to day and back and forth and back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But
now some people who, like, I always kind of read commentary after I see a film.
Yeah.
And some people kind of applauded the film for the very chaos that you're saying made it hard to understand.
Yeah.
Because it was total chaos.
Yeah. No, and they definitely portrayed that well, and I think the director, whoever, definitely showed what I believe it would really be like them getting shot at and having his fuel gauge malfunction, and like little symbols like that. He was writing down what his friend who took off at the same time, his colleague, what fuel he had and the time and stuff, and later on would do it again. And then that colleague ended up going down in the water, and the man without the fuel gauge made some big victory and made it over the beach where apparently hundreds of thousands of soldiers were, and there was another big plane coming in from, I guess it would have been the Germans or something like that, was going to come in and bomb them, but this plane without any fuel had just died and was just starting to come down, and happened to shoot this plane down.
Mm-hmm.
Just in time.
Yeah, now I remember that scene at the end where the ship is, or the airplane, it shot down the German bomber, I think it was, or German plane,
Yeah.
and then it's without. The fuel cuts out, right? It's out of fuel,
Yeah.
and there's a scene where it's kind of gliding over the beach,
Yeah.
which to me I thought was a spectacular scene
Yeah.
because it was also really quiet, like the sound element.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everybody was cheering, and after that cheering, it was very quiet with like just little bassy music in the background, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the other questions dealt with talking about the sound, camera angles, other film elements. You talked about it being dark.
Yeah, it was very dark, and there was lots of handheld shaky camera, I noticed, which kind of, I guess they were trying to put you in the scene and make it feel like you were really there instead of watching it, which worked in a sense. And then also at nighttime, the faces were actually dark and stuff like that. And it made you feel like you were actually there. Like at one point they were inside of a ship that was beached, and they were waiting for the tide to come up. And there were probably at least a dozen soldiers in there, and it was dark, and the camera was shaking around and this angle and that angle. And when I guess an enemy shot at the boat, and the camera would duck down with everybody else, it wouldn't stay stationary and like glide around or anything like that. So that had a bonus in the point of trying to make it feel like you were really there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the planes, there weren't too many tracking shots of the planes. There were quite a few of like shots from inside of the plane, looking at the pilot or looking out at what he's shooting or through the crosshair and stuff. So that's another thing that they're trying to make it feel like you're in the moment with them. But one thing about the movie that I found odd was there was in comparison to other movies along a similar line, there was very, very little dialogue in the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I would guess, less than 500 words in the entire thing, and most of the words were in the last 5 minutes.
That's something also that I read about. I saw it in a big theater on a huge screen with like 600 people.
Yeah.
I was visiting my daughter in Vancouver, and I was struck by how little dialogue there was. And the one soldier who's like, the way it opens up with that one soldier trying to get onto the beach, and initially they think he gets shot at by his own people.
Yeah.
And there's there's so little dialogue, and he's basically on his own.
Yeah.
And then he kind of connects with this other soldier who turns out to be a French deserter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the one that they think he's a German spy?
Yeah.
And there's just so much confusion. But the fact that there's no dialogue to kind of direct you.
Yeah.
What I felt when I saw that film is I felt my visual senses were all I had to go with.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you, just relying on your visual sense just to make sense of the film?
It was really hard for me to keep focused on it, I guess. How do I put this? I don't know. I really did struggle to keep focus on the film. Watching it, I kept getting distracted, whether it be on my phone or just daydreaming about something else. It was, without that dialogue, it was hard to understand things, I guess. Understand what was happening.
Now, the other thing, the fact that there are those 3 different storylines.
Yeah.
You did a really good job talking about the storyline of the dad and his son on the boat.
Yeah.
That one seems really compact. It's tidy.
Mm-hmm.
Because they leave England They cross the channel. They pick up that one guy, the sole survivor from that attack.
Yeah.
And then he stresses out.
Yeah.
And then he ends up killing that young man.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he did. Did he just bang his head?
Yeah. The sole survivor was telling the captain to turn around and head back, I guess, to England. It would have been. And he was like, no, we're going to continue on and we're going to keep going. And the survivor started getting rowdy. And the two boys stepped in and he pushed the boys back. And one of them, I guess, fell below deck and hit his head. And everybody thought he was going to be fine, but he couldn't. He was blind. And a while later, when they pick up all the other crewmates from the other ship that's gone down, the son tells them to be careful, and they say that he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect he hit his head in falling.
Yeah, now the other storyline of the soldier who opens up the film and actually ends up finally getting on a ship.
Yeah.
Now, I can't recall what happens to him. Like, did the ship he's on get sunk, right?
The what soldier?
The soldier, the guy who tried to sneak onto the one ship by carrying the stretcher.
Yeah.
Like that guy, he's the same guy who ends up on that little boat.
Yeah.
The one that's beached on the beach.
Yeah.
And I can't recall what happens to him.
I don't think that storyline ended.
Okay.
Because I can't remember what happened to him either, thinking about it.
Yeah. Whereas with the pilots, were there three pilots? How many pilots were there? Were there three of them?
There were three, and one went down pretty quick.
And assumed dead, right? Didn't he kind of crash?
Yeah. It didn't look great. And then the other two, one without a fuel gauge, and then one gets shot and goes down by the boat, by the small boat with the father and son, and he can't get out, and they bash in his canopy, and he can get out, and I guess survives, but you don't really see him any longer after getting out of his plane. You don't even see him getting on the ship. I guess it's just suspected that he does. And then the last guy, he ran out of fuel, I guess, an engine cut out, and he's gliding down and shoots his plane in his glide and then lands, and for some reason shoots his plane, and then the final scene is his plane on fire.
And but do you remember what happens to him at the very end?
I don't remember.
Okay, because I remember he got captured.
Did he?
Yeah, and that's why he burned his plane.
Yeah.
For whatever, not to give the enemy his plane. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, I think it happened just at the very, very end.
Yeah.
But no, your first thing you said to me when we started talking about this film is that you didn't like it.
No, I'm not a fan of films that I struggle to keep focused on. It feels more like work than entertainment.
Now, did you see Saving Private Ryan?
Years ago, I've seen it, yeah.
Okay. Now, as I recall, that film had a more, what they call a linear narrative.
Yeah.
It begins and it ends.
Yeah.
And what's another kind of war film that you can compare this to?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't watch many movies, but yeah, I don't know off the top of my head right now.
Okay, no, I just thought maybe by comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any final thoughts you want to get down about the film?
Don't think so. You discussed most of it.
Yeah, no, I think you did a good job of the characters.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you recalled the lack of dialogue.
Hmm. That was a big part for me. Like right from the start, I noticed that, yeah, it was like no talking. And I guess that's more like what's going to happen in real life. Like you got all these guys at war who are big and tough and don't really want to talk. But in a movie, I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather a little bit more at least.
Well, yeah, this film made you work
Yeah.
as a viewer.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it might be interesting to read some commentary on the film.
Hmm.
And you still have access to it for a couple of days?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it might be worth rewatching.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to end this portion of it.
Okay.
Okay, so actually what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to end the meeting and we'll come back into the meeting because I need to end the meeting in order to get a file.
Okay.
Okay, so one sec.